extremely low-budget film. It came after a street fight, which came after heavy traffic, and the studio was just about busted because of the problems I had on Street Fight, which were unnecessary, but there they were. So Wizards was done by a very dedicated crew, extremely low budget, and somehow it's still playing. I'm kind of shocked and stunned. I used to take direction, and I still do very seriously. Plus, I was an underground filmmaker. You know, I wasn't looking to run a Disney or be Hanna-Barbera. I love my work, so maybe it shows.
It must have been 16-hour days on this one.
Who remembers? A lot of, the guy talked about blood before. That's my blood on the screen. And the animators enjoyed doing this. So those guys are all dead, and I can't say enough about the great animators that I had the pleasure of working with. These guys saved my ass time and time and time again. They were professional. They were from the old school, and they're all gone. A lot of young kids around who I trained working for Trek. Trek 3. But what I'm saying is the older guys, the golden age guys, the guys that were 50 years old when I was 26, the guys that took care of me, they're all gone. And I've gotten over that, so I decided to do another film. One of the reasons I quit was because those guys were gone. You know, and the team felt broken up. That's the way I am. I'm very emotional.
Whenever you read about this film, a lot of times it'll be mentioned that the rotoscoping or the optical printing of the armies is done as a cost-cutting measure, but I look at it as kind of that may be the case, but it also seems like it really works in the flow of the film because they're, you know, the bad guys are, you know, movie freaks and they're watching Triumph the Will over and over again, and so when you see them on screen, they are film, you know, remnants.
Well, okay, that's a very good point. I mean, the point is, yes, I turned to film took a year. I was $50,000 short to do the final battle scene. I get to the final battle scene, and I need $50,000 more, which in movie terms is nothing. These guys paid $50,000 on lunch. So I had to go back to Fox and say, give me $50,000 more. We got 2 union raises. And the picture went over budget. You know, during the course of the film, the animators union raised their salaries. So my budgets went up to 50. The guy said, nah, we're not going to do it. Why? We hate science fiction. This is true. I'm sitting in, no, this is true, I'm not. I'm sitting in the same room that George Lucas is sitting in. He's got a picture called Star Wars. Now, my original picture was called War Wizards. So sitting with George Lucas, who's got Star Wars, he says, look, Ralph, I got Star Wars, you got War Wizards. You know, drop the war. Just call it Wizards. I said, all right, George, I will. So I get turned down by Alan Ladd Jr. on $50,000 more. And yeah, I'm responsible to finish the film. I don't know how I'm going to finish the film. It's the final battle scene. And Lucas goes in to get about $3 million more on Star Wars. They say, no. True story. So George renegotiates his contract and gets all the rights back, puts his own money in. He had made money on American Graffiti. Puts his own $3 million and renegotiates the contract, gets all the merchandising back and all the rights. So Lucas owns Star Wars because they wouldn't give him $3 million. It's a true story. This is the brilliance of a studio. I'm serious. So I also renegotiated my contract, and I own all the characters I'm with. I mean, I put money in my $50,000, which is my fees. All right, so now I go back to the studio, and to get back to your question, I have no money, and I got to do a battle scene. So I decide on this thing called rotoscope that Disney lied about, but I knew he used to do. See, in those days, Disney never admitted this. I knew he did it on Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, and I knew it was cheaper, but the point is, as a filmmaker, and here's the point I'm trying to get to eventually, as a filmmaker, you try to solve your money problems with creative new techniques that look good, but are also cheaper. There's the battle, and that's the joy of what we were doing in the studio. Because no one told me no. Like on Heavy Traffic, I could not afford to paint backgrounds to the extent that you needed it, because painting a background is expensive. But I loving photography and being a photographer in Brooklyn, I knew that if you took a photograph of a street and blew it up, it was like $10 as opposed to a background that was $300. You know, I said the answer is photographic backgrounds. And it's better because the characters are real and the story they're talking about is real. So, you know, when content matches what you're talking about, you've got a nice combination in the film business. So I never let, so that's the kind of, what I'm trying to say is filmmakers can approach low budget with joy, knowing that they can create techniques. You know, if you try to do a low budget film with old-fashioned ways and just make that cheap, but no, try to find new techniques that work for the budget and for basically the quality of the film. So that's where the rotoscoping came in. It was a budget problem. Now, years later, people were saying, great. You know, I also had the choice of Alden and Alexander Nevsky. I ripped off the best directors in the world. When I picked up on action, I went to all the great movies and took all their footage. No one recognized it. I held my breath.
How was Fox's marketing for the film?
Fox's marketing?
Yeah.
Oh, another horror story. This is why I mentioned it. You know, how it's terrible. I mean, unlucky for me. You know, I told you about Lucas because I was getting ready for the Lucas story, right? So I open up 2 weeks before Lucas. Now, Paul said Fox hates science fiction. The guy that bought Wizards and Star Wars left. He was fired. So he was thrown out, and this guy, Alan Ladd Jr. comes in, so it wasn't his picture. So they gave me 400 or 500 theaters, you know what I'm saying, which is decent in those days. And I opened up and we're breaking box office records. I mean, we're really doing sensation, right? And I'm rich. I'm happy. I got, you know, pictures all mine. They give me back the points. I'm sitting pretty, you know. And then Lucas opens up with Star Wars. And it goes through the roof. They had bigger than Wizards, right? 2 weeks and 3 weeks after, those bastards took my theaters and gave it to Star Wars.
Ralph Bakshi is a brilliant man.
Very true.
And a brilliant animator.
Awesome. Yes, true.
But after 9 o'clock, he turns into a werewolf of hate. I had not realized this. Everyone who walked up to me say, "Hey, are you all right, man? Are you okay? Is everything all right?" They all said, "Haven't you seen him on YouTube?" I said, "No, I read some interviews, like printed word. That's kind of where I'm at." And they were like, "Yeah, watch YouTube. He does this all the time." So I walked into a fucking propeller. Did you guys know? Let's tell them a little bit about Coonskin. AKA, we call it Street Fight, but the actual title is Coonskin. So let's talk a little bit about this movie.
Yeah, I don't think you were out of line wanting to talk about the difference in time between now and when that movie was made. I think that was a great line of inquiry, especially talking with a movie that's so nuts to watch for somebody who was grown up in a stringently, overtly PC world. Where, I'm saying that the movie is controversial, and that's whether that means that you get in there and it's nasty and you get mad at it, or you get in there and it makes you want to talk about it, and that's not always a bad thing.
I don't think it's a bad thing at all, particularly about racism, which is a subject that so often people don't talk about. I'm really sorry that Ralph Bakshi's not here. I'm sorry I drove him out of the building and possibly out of public appearances ever again in his life, but I wish he was here to kind of give us that context, and we're poor substitutes.
If I may, all of his early movies, from Fritz, Heavy Traffic, the early ones were heavily dealing with race relations, white-black relations, man-woman relations, violence in the inner cities. I think one thing he wanted to say, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it seemed like he wanted to just say, I was talking about life. I'm not racist, I'm not talking about race, I'm just talking about life as I see it. That clearly shows through, I get that. He never is trying to tell you about it, he's showing. And I think he probably got stung, I guess, early on.
Jay Knowles was just telling me they would go on like talk shows and have the most venomous calls come in and say, "You are a racist bastard, how dare you." So I think it's a matter of some thin skin. I'm just happy that we've had him at the theater. For anybody who's here didn't get the benefit of meeting Ralph Bakshi and talking to Ralph Bakshi, I'm deeply sorry. I hope we can coax him into coming back tomorrow.